Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Wally for HighOnBeats.com production tutorial videos. This week we're going to look at vocoded drums and different fun things that you can do with them. And surprise, surprise, we're in Ableton 9. Came out 2 days ago, I believe. And we're now on the actual full version of Ableton 9, not the beta, which is great. Yay, okay. Moving on. We're going to do, like I said, some vocoded drums. And we're going to do them in a couple of different ways. The project you're looking at right now is pretty much the same or variation on the project I did for the break beats choppage, which we've done in another video. So if you're wondering what's going on here, you can go ahead and look at that video. And that video is also based on the what's it called, MIDI drum routing tutorial, which I also did, which you can have a look at if you're curious to see what's going on in this part here. Alright, so let's see what we have. We got a little bunch of drum patterns we're going to start with. Now this is our MIDI drums. So we've got a 4/4 beat going on there from one of my tracks called Oreos. You can check that on my SoundCloud if you're curious at all, but that's not the subject we're at hand. This drum pattern here. Well, this whole rack is an aim and break that has been chopped into little pieces, and this drum pattern here corresponds to this one here, but obviously on a different rack. It sounds like this. Then we went ahead and did another pattern. A slight variation to show you some cool stuff. I've got a little synth we programmed here with a little synth line that goes like this. So if you want to be able to program your own synth in this way, an operator or in another synth for that matter, you can go and look at my synthesis video. We've got a little sub bass going on here. We have to turn that speaker on first, excuse me. Okay. And we've got some acoustic drums. We'll get to those later. Okay, so first thing we're gonna want to do, that's gonna be nice and pleasant. We're gonna go into our aim and break section, and I have a couple of things going on here. What I would usually do is use the aim and break on top of the regular drum pattern, which would sound like this. But I feel like adding some depth, some melody to the aim and break. So we're gonna go ahead. I got a couple of things going on here. I'm gonna filter out some of the low frequencies because we got a lot of low frequencies in the main kick. As part of the previous tutorial, I had a redux here which did some funky things. We might get into that, and a filter delay to add some space and stuff. But let's look at what we're going to do with the vocoder. Let's throw that, I'm going to say here. We're going to use the external as a carrier and audio input from that little melody I showed you earlier. So we're going to turn this off, and we're going to be feeding the melody into this drum pattern. You can see we now have the melody showing up, but with we could say the drum pattern as an envelope. So if you listen to the whole thing, so we can play. we switch out the drum pattern. So this is what we get out of the Vocoded drums. Obviously, the other effects we've got here can add some extra depth without losing the rhythmic element that we had in here. So obviously, you feel free to do any combination of effects. You can also you could also use the vocoder in a chain and have other effects on the other chain, and then go into some side chain compression and all sorts of funky stuff. So let your imagination flow. We're gonna pause this one for now. Another little cool thing we can do is if we get out of the melody side, I have a sub bass right here, and I kind of want to have a melodic bassy kick drum instead of having an external sub bass. So we're gonna feed this sub bass into our kick. Into basically we have a layer of two layered kicks. This was already on actually. Oops. So we have two layered kicks. So this one I'm going to keep dry and as is, as it has a lot of higher end, and this one is going to be our lower bassier part of it, which we're going to vocode externally tracked to our sub bass. And I'm going to add a little bit of compression. Well, let's start without compression and see what this does. So adding a little bit of release, you can play around with it and really sort of mold it into a melodic sort of 808-y-ish kick drum. And when you listen to it with the other kick drum, still retains that nice rhythm to it. Okay, so I mean, this could have easily been programmed as is, and you could have just used multiple kicks on different pitches and achieved a similar effect. Now, the reason I went ahead and thought up of this this technique, well, I happen to be some of you might know I happen to be in this band, and we have a live drummer. We use a live drummer, and so it is an interesting. Now, at a certain point, we used to use triggers for the kick drum, but that didn't work out very well for us, and so we decided to just use mics. Now, it's really hard to achieve melodic kick drum without any, without a long chain of effect, but vocoder does sort of work for that. So we've got something going on here. I'm going to turn off the chain here. So we've got a little drum pattern, a very raw drum pattern that hasn't been processed too much with that we did with a couple of mics. So let's listen to that kick drum. So it's nice and boomy and acoustic. In the context of electronic music, we might want to add some bass to that. So let's go ahead and choose what I did. I used an audio effect rack on the kick, and one of the chains will filters out some of the low end and overdrives the top, so we can As you can hear, you really get sort of the sound of the beater going on the skin itself. And on the other chain, we've filtered out the high frequency, so we really just get the bassiness of it. So as you can see on the, it's kind of hard to hear if you don't have a decent sub, but you've got a lot of low frequencies going on here. Now if we turn on the vocoder and tune it, use the carrier external to our sub bass and use the same compressors. This is basically the same rig we're using on the other electronic kick. And let's listen to this. So we've integrated the melody, and we can play around with the release here. And we can achieve various little effects and really bring a melody to the kick drum. So we just listen to the whole thing. Now this is really cool in the context of a live environment where you could have, instead of, well, right now we're listening to a loop, but this could very well be adapted to work directly on the microphone and be output to the speakers, so you can get that very raw acoustic sound merged with the bassier electronic sound. So that about covers it. That's what I wanted to talk about. This was the Vocoded drums. Feel free to get really creative if you came up with something really cool with based on these ideas. Feel free to share it in the comment section. If you have any questions, ask away. You can also send me emails in the to the email that's in the infos on the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time.